And Pakistan has always kept its borders open. We see many borders in the world closed. We see many refugees rejected. We see many refugees discriminated. We see many refugees being used as a pretext in electoral campaigns to win votes by dividing people. But in Pakistan, we have always seen refugees welcomed, the borders open, and the doors of the Pakistanis open, and the hearts of the Pakistanis opened. And let's be clear, both Pakistan and Iran, that has also received billions of Afghan refugees, have always extended their generosity to them, have always guaranteed that they wouldn't be discriminated and that they would benefit from the same aspects in which the citizens of the countries would benefit in education, in health, with very little support from the international community. Having been High Commissioner for Refugees during 10 years, and doing our best to support Pakistan as to support Iran in relation to Afghan refugees, we know that our contribution and the contributions that we were able to channel from the international community were a drop in the ocean of the needs of the Afghan refugees and of the communities hosting them. And that is one reason more why in this moment it is very important to ask the international community to come together to support the peace process, to come together to make sure that a peace process that has started can be concluded and can be concluded with success. The Afghan people deserves it and the world needs it. But at the same time, the international community needs to come together to fully support the reconstruction of Afghanistan and to create the conditions allowing Afghan refugees to be able to go back home in safety and dignity, because their country has rediscovered peace and has rediscovered prosperity. And creating also the conditions for regional cooperation based on that same peace, taking into account the extraordinarily geostrategic position of Afghanistan in the center that links not only the refugee hosting countries of today, but Central Asia and further afield, creating here, or being able to create here, a zone of international cooperation and common development, bringing benefits to the citizens of the countries of the region that until now, unfortunately, the war in Afghanistan has not allowed to develop. At the same time, I want to say, as Secretary General of the United Nations, how much we appreciate what has been the very strong commitment of Pakistan towards the United Nations and towards multilateralism. Pakistani peacekeepers are one of the most important assets we have in our missions around the world. At the same time, Pakistan has completely implemented inside its own policies the Agenda 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals, our blueprint for fair globalization. And Pakistan is in the front line, both in the front line of fighting climate change and in the front line of suffering the impacts of climate change, what corresponds to us a vital priority. During this visit, I had also the occasion to listen to the concerns expressed by the different authorities of Pakistan in relation to the situation in Kashmir, and the United Nations will, of course, be faithful to the principles that we have always had in relation to the need for Security Council resolutions to be implemented, in relation for the diplomacy and dialogue to be able to solve the problems that exist. And once again, I offered my good offices in this regard, and to claim that in these situations, full respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms is essential. We were able to understand your concerns, and we will be able to do what is in our mandate and in our capacities in relation to the response to those concerns. But above all, I wanted to express my deep solidarity with the Pakistani people, and I want to express on behalf of us all our best wishes for the peace, the prosperity, and the development of this country and its people that has shown so much the generosity and the solidarity that we would like to see all over the world. Thank you very much.
अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा के सेक्रेटरी जनरल एंटोनियो गुतेरेस मौजूद हैं ऐवान सदर में, जहां सदर मुमलिकत डॉक्टर आरिफ अलवी की जानिब से उनके एजाज़ में एक इशाइये का एहतमाम किया गया है। इसी इशाइये में वो खिताब कर रहे थे और अभी आपको बताएं कि सदर मुमलिकत इस सब इशाइये से खिताब कर रहे हैं।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Your Excellency Secretary General Guterres, High Commissioner Grandi, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a good evening. I welcome the distinguished delegates of the International Conference to mark 40 years of Afghan refugee presence in Pakistan, and I hope that your stay in Pakistan will be comfortable and fruitful. I avail the opportunity to commend Secretary General Guterres for his dynamic leadership and passionate advocacy for refugee causes worldwide. And since he's been in Pakistan, I've been following what he has been saying, and I must appreciate the fact that a moral and ethical-based leadership at the United Nations has the potential of doing wonders for the world community at large. Pakistan is hosting this conference at a critical juncture, and examples for support and solidarity for refugees are few, while instances of closed borders, as the Secretary General mentioned right now, are many. What we learned over the 80 years from the West was a continuous insistence on humanitarian issues, on human rights. But the world is changing. The world is changing in a direction where the walls of the borders are getting bigger and bigger in height. Countries are not ready to take 100 refugees and they are allowed to drown in the Mediterranean or in the rivers dividing the borders. But they are not ready to take even 100 refugees. While Pakistan, outstandingly, as it was mentioned, had 5 million refugees at one time, and 2.7 million refugees, Afghan refugees, are still in Pakistan. Your Excellency, this is despite the fact that we are not a very rich nation. But I made a claim while I was in a meeting about 10 minutes ago with the Secretary General, and I am proud of the fact that not a single voice in Pakistan I remember among politicians from any party who ever said that the refugees have to be sent back or the refugees have to be prevented from coming into Pakistan. Your Excellency, not a single voice, and that's what makes me proud of Pakistan. I believe that the Afghan peace process is very close to its completion, and thanks to your efforts and thanks to the consultations happening throughout between all the powers and the neighbors, and I am hopeful that once this peace process happens, and then situation will be created which will be good enough for the refugees to start returning to Afghanistan. But at the same time, Your Excellency, what we discussed previously was the fact that Pakistan has learned a lot over the past 30 or 40 years. What Pakistan has learned is very unique. Pakistan has hosted the highest number of refugees in the recent years in the world, and not a rich country. And our hearts were open. We hosted them because they were our neighbors, and we hosted them because any human being in misery, and especially our neighbors, we should be hosting them. That's what we learned. And we are proud of that fact. We also learned that polarizing our own society and our own country into people divided into extreme positions is a very dangerous trend. That's the second lesson we learned. The third lesson which I believe Pakistan is very proud of, is the fact that we won the war of terrorism on our land. Very important. We're the most experienced nation in the world which has been able to clear itself of terror and has been able to fight terrorism. That's what we learned. So therefore, when India's belligerence in Kashmir took over as soon as this government came into place, and the Prime Minister made an offer of peace to India, continuing peace. This was not a new officer, but our Prime Minister was insistent in the fact that we have to handle poverty, we have to handle education in this country, and he made an offer of peace. And because it was not responded, the Prime Minister believed that it has happened because of the fact that elections are due in India. But we realized after Pulwama and other actions that our Western neighbor has not learned the lessons which Pakistan has learned. And when that attack took place, Your Excellency, the entire Pakistan leadership, not only of one singular party which is in government, but of all parties, the entire media of Pakistan, the entire people of this country talked about peace, wanted peace. And on the other hand, that is why we have learned this. That's why we were talking as a nation from experience. And on the other hand, across the border, the entire nation, the entire leadership, all the media, and everybody was hyping and war. So that is a good example of where Pakistan is at the tipping point, having learned historically, have shown a moral and ethical fiber in their spine that despite poor economy, we have had a big heart and we have learned big lessons. So this has been very important. And today, I believe, and I was mentioning to the Secretary General, that the world needs togetherness. There's global warming. There are issues which are very big in the world today. The footprint of mankind on the limited resources of the earth is something which requires cooperation. And that cooperation is necessary because these challenges to the world are without borders. It has nothing to do with the borders. People have to come together. And when we have immature leadership, the result is that the cooperation which is necessary, which has endangered mankind, cannot take place, does not take place, and wars and isolation and xenophobia and Islamophobia and things which are definitely evil take the charge and take leadership. Sir, I am requesting for the United Nations that Pakistan in its infancy and United Nations in its infancy we believed in each other, and Pakistan, the United Nations passed 12 resolutions, and we hope that the world would be more peaceful, and these resolutions have to be implemented. Your Excellency, this is Pakistan's request that the work has still to go on. The UNMOGIP, the United Nations Military Observers Group in Pakistan, and India should allow the United Nations military observers to go into Kashmir and see what is happening. Human rights of Kashmir, we are requesting the United Nations, thank you. We are requesting the United Nations that the human rights issue and the report since after August 5 should come out. We are requesting, we are asking and demanding that the Indian government should open up Kashmir to the media, to let the people, if the things are hunky-dory and are very good, the Indian government should open up and allow people to travel to that place and see what is happening. At the same time, we are fearful that India is getting into a quagmire with the Citizens Act and also with the Refugee Assam Registration Act, and there is a polarization in India which is going to be dangerous for the world. Pakistan has learned India is falling into the same pits which Pakistan has moved out of, and I believe that unless these things are exposed to the world, the future in India is bleak, and therefore the way the Afghan war affected us, the things which may happen in India will affect the peace in Pakistan also. So we believe that international pressure is essential to stop India from creating a situation which further deteriorates peace in the region. Welcome, Your Excellency. Welcome All the delegates who have come here to this conference, thank you very much. And we have a lot of hopes in peace through the United Nations. Thank you very much.